Hi, Raylene. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I've got good news and bad news.
Oh, okay. Yikes.
Okay, the bad news is I do not have a bio for you. We didn't receive one, so I'm going to have to kind of wing that part. The good news
Okay.
is that I've seen your film.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Good.
so I know what I'm going to be talking about.
Excellent.
So
Good place to start.
let's do the bio part first. Why don't you just give us a quick backstory of yourself,
Sure.
and then we'll talk
Yeah,
about the film.
absolutely. Okay, great. My name is Raylene Harewood. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. When I was about 16 years old, I got this really strong feeling that if I didn't become an actor, I would feel super unfulfilled in my life. So I decided to pursue it, and I was so supported by family and friends. I moved to Vancouver, BC at the age of 19, and I did a 3 year conservatory acting program at a theater school. And since then, I've mostly been working in film. And I am the lead in the movie, All Joking Aside, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Right. How's the indie film scene in Vancouver? Is it pretty big?
Yes and no. There are some indies that do happen and do quite well in our little industry. And we do a lot of acquisition films. So films that are initially, yeah, they're indies and then get sold to other channels. So that's really big here.
Okay. Are you
Yeah.
primarily a film actor, or do you do TV, or do you do theater, or?
I really do it all. I studied in theater and haven't done it quite as much since I graduated, but I actually, if COVID wasn't happening right now, I would be in Toronto doing a big show right now. But yeah, I do television as well and film. I do everything.
Okay. Do you have a preference?
That's such a hard question to answer because they're both so different. What I love about film and television is the immediacy of it and the speed of it. That really lights a fire in me. The fact that you don't get much rehearsal and you just kind of have to come in ready to go and just go for it. However, I do love the theater community and the chance to, when you're doing a theater show, you get to rehearse for a few weeks to a few months, and you can really, uh, fine tune things, which is great, obviously, because you're doing a show live, and so things kind of you have to, know what you're doing for a good couple hours, and it's got to be really well rehearsed. Um, anyway, that's all to say I find joy in both for different reasons.
Okay. Well, what
Yeah.
I've heard from film actors and TV actors is that they love to do film. They enjoy that. That's really where they make their money.
Hmm.
But theater for them is like the adrenaline rush because sitting on a movie set can be really boring. You don't get that audience response like you do in theater that keeps your, I don't know, your senses sharp as an actor.
Totally. Yeah. I will say I do find there is some adrenaline in film in that, I kind of like that there's so much to think about. It's very technical. So if the camera's over here, you have to be mindful of that. And you also have to be mindful of your scene partner and your lines. And I find that to be a bit of a rush for myself, but there is really something different about live theater and being able to feel the audience's response as they follow you along on a journey. And that really does feed you. And yeah, so I do identify with that, and that is one thing I really miss during these times is that live connection that you have with an audience.
Well, and it's a little bit, in one sense, you're a little freer because, like you said, when you're filming, you've got to be mindful of where the cameras are. With theater, you just kind of own the stage. And as long as you keep your blocking to the perspectives of the show, like you don't go run
Mm-hmm.
off to the side when you're not supposed to.
Right.
But do you know what I mean? You kind of command that space that you're in, and you're
Yeah,
not,
totally.
yeah, you're not inhibited by things in your way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it is a little more free.
yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, let's talk about your film. Your film is called All Joking Aside. Like I said, I have seen it. And, to be honest, and I don't volunteer these kind of compliments to everybody because, I do this for a living. So I watch films all the time. That
Right.
was one of the better films that I've seen in a while. I must say that.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. We worked really hard on it.
Well, it shows. And the story was excellent. It
Thank
grabbed me from the beginning and it just kept me right through. It wasn't
Good.
how some films kind of take a while to get going and you're sort of like, oh, not yours. Yours just, it grabbed me immediately, right at that point where he started heckling. And I was like, ah, and I was hooked at that point. That was it.
Good. Yeah, that's quite early on, so that's really good to hear. And I think one of the great things about our film is it's so layered. So there's always something to be kind of figuring out or deciphering or to, I suppose, have empathy for along the journeys of the characters.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that story. And anybody who has pursued a career in performing arts, be it acting, musician, uh, we've all had that. We've all had those moments on stage where we just died. And we've all had that feeling of needing the sort of shot in the butt of confidence, which really
Yeah,
is what this industry is all about. If you've got
right.
nothing else but self-confidence, that's going to get you a long way. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We all need a little bit of that.
So I do want to talk specifically about stand-up comedy because that's something I've always admired in people that were able to do that alone. I
Hmm.
can be funny, but I need somebody else. Like I
Right.
would be good in a comedy team as the straight guy. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure.
But to get up there all by myself and try to do it, no, I don't think so. I could sing, but
Okay. That's good.
but
That's
but
culpable.
stand-ups and dancers are always the two that I admire because I can't do it.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you about stand-up comedy. Is that something that you can do, or is it just something you did for the film, or did you ever have any desire to do it?
It's just for the film. I've always been an admirer of stand-up comedians. I've been a fan of John Mulaney for years and Gary Gulman and many other comedians. But it wasn't until I did a little like 5 minute set at an open mic night on my own as preparation for the movie that I realized how vulnerable it is. Like you don't really think about it too much because I like I said I have quite an extensive theater background, so I've performed on stage plenty in my life.
Right.
But the difference is that with theater, somebody hands me a script and a director tells me what to do and where to stand and how to whatever, right? With comedy, it's all you. So you write your own stuff. You got to get up on stage and not know if the material is going to work and tell your own story as yourself for people to either laugh at or not laugh at. And the goal is to get laughed. And it's really hard to do. So I have a lot of respect for stand-up comedians. You got to be really brave and really vulnerable to get up there and try to entertain people as yourself.
Well, there's a lot more unknowns when you get up as a stand-up. Okay,
Yep.
you've got your act in your head. No self-respecting stand-up uses notes on stage that I've ever seen. So
Right.
you gotta memorize all that. You gotta know
Mm-hmm.
what you're gonna do for the 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then, like you pointed out in the film, you got to use the stage. You got to put your
Mm-hmm.
whole body into the. If you just stand there stiff as a board, grabbing the mic stand like your character did at the
Yeah.
beginning of the film, I mean that shows it doesn't work. Makes
No,
you look
definitely not.
scared. Yeah.
Yeah, because people, respond to that. Like we all have mirror neurons. So if you're watching someone just standing there stiff as a board, like you're gonna feel that nervousness as well, and you're not
Right.
gonna feel open to laughing. So you got to appear comfortable at very least so that other people can be comfortable enough to enjoy themselves.
And then the other unknown is the hecklers. Typically, if you work in theater, you're not going to get hecklers.
Ideally not.
Ideally not. But stand up, it's kind of par for course, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose one of the things that I learned from doing the movie and then just from watching other stand-up comedians that I really like is hecklers can actually be a gift. You know, it gives you an opportunity to engage with the audience. And if it goes well, then you can really get the audience on your side.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you know how to deal with them, yeah, it can be really
Yeah.
good.
But that's an art form. That's something that's like improv comedy. You don't have the opportunity to rehearse for a
No.
heckler, you know?
No, but in because I think I did deal with a heckler when I did my little open mic night. And what I find is that you don't actually have to think about it, at least for me. And maybe I'm just lucky that way. But like your response will just come, you know? And I think it's not even about the response being the best response. It's how quickly can you respond and how quickly can you just have fun. So yeah, anyway, it's super risky, but it's maybe not as hard as people think.
Well, it is an art form. That kind of
Yeah.
spontaneous reaction. You got to be quick in the head.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
because there is no rehearsal for it. The one line that stuck with me from that film was when your character and the actor's name was Brian Markinson,
Mhm.
who was your right. Okay, so and his character was named
Bob.
Bob, I
Yes.
believe. Okay, so Bob and Charlie are the two characters, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you and Bob were sitting on the park bench feeding the ducks, and it was like your first sort of introduction, and he said, "Do you want to be funny or happy?" And I thought that was such a great line because he was under the assumption that you couldn't be both,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it kind of goes back to that idea that artists must suffer for their art. You know, do you believe that or not?
Uh, I certainly don't want to, and I don't think it's necessary, but I do think a lot of really great art does come from suffering. But that's not to say that you have to suffer all the time. I mean, we all have suffering in our lives, and then we all have really good moments in our lives, And I think it's just the difference with artists is that we choose to make our suffering into art. But I wouldn't say that we like inherently suffer more than the average person.
Well, suffering can be actually beneficial to people to build their self confidence. It does come
Oh,
that way
interesting. Yeah.
because if you live, I mean, I studied acting when I was 18. I went to New York City and went to the American Academy of Dramatic Art and
Okay.
did the typical starving artist thing, lived in a really crappy boarding house hotel with a shared bathroom with all kinds of icky people. And
Right.
live that life. And after a while, you thought, I just got beat up on the subway. What's the big deal about getting up on stage and making a fool of myself? That's a piece of cake now. You
Right.
know, so it had that kind of confidence building things.
Yeah.
So there is benefit to it. However, I don't think it's mandatory. Do you? I don't think it's required.
No,
No.
I don't think so.
And I think the character Bob figured that out at the end of the movie, didn't he?
I think so. I think that both characters go through a significant amount of growth in that movie and their relationship really benefits each other.
Well, the writing was spectacular in that film, so kudos to the writers.
Yes, James
Who are the
Pickering.
writers? I don't. Who is it?
James Pickering wrote the movie. He is
James
a writer
Pickering.
based in the UK.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great story.
Yeah. Hmm.
Is there going to be a part two?
Wow, no one's asked me that yet. Not to my knowledge, but that would be a really cool thing to work on. Maybe I should pitch it to the writer.
Well, the way the movie ended, it really lended itself to a part two, because
Mm,
you could take Charlie on tour, and Bob goes with her, and maybe Bob's
yeah,
career gets revived, or who
right.
knows? There's a
Yeah.
million ways to go with it. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe one opens for the other. There's lots that could happen. Comedy
yeah.
duo. That's actually really fun. I'm gonna think about that.
So, anyways, we do have to wrap this up. What are you working on now? Any new projects you want to talk about or mention?
Yeah. Well, I'm working on some acquisition films right now that might be sold to different networks. But one movie that's coming out very soon, tomorrow actually, is called Cranberry Christmas on the Hallmark Channel. So if you're a fan of Hallmark movies, you might see me there.
Well, Raylene, thanks so much for coming on and sharing and telling us about your film and about your life. Do you have a website you want to give out?
I don't have a website, but you can find me on Twitter at Raylene Harewood. I don't post much, but I am there. And I am much more active on Instagram at Raylene Harewood as well.
Okay, super.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. Nice talking to you. Best of
Thanks
luck.
for